This thing is incredible. Why is all my clothes not made of this?
G'day, I'm Jock Merriman, founder of Sir W Merino.
I grew up on the farm and we've been producing merino wool for the last 120, 30 years. If the fiber is thicker than 19.5 microns, it's actually going to be too thick. So when it is against your skin, it's not going to bend, and that's what causes that prickle or that itch factor. And that is really important because only merino sheep grow wool that fine. It doesn't smell, it breathes, it sweat wicks, it's super, super soft and comfortable. Why aren't our everyday clothes made of this? Like, why aren't I going to work in a polo shirt made from merino wool, not cotton that smells and, gets really sweaty and gross? My great-grandfather, his name was Walter, and he became a Sir. He got knighted by the Queen of England for his contribution to the Australian wool industry. And so he became Sir Walter. So I just shortened it to Sir W.
Sir W.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Opinionated Off-Topic. Today I'm with Carlos Mojica, co-owner, co-founder of Opinionated Media. I'm with Cam. We got Albert on the boards on production behind the camera. Today we're with Jock. And we're going to be talking about his brand, Sir W Merino. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct, yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure I'm pronouncing everything right. But we're talking about his clothing brand. Followed me probably like sometime last year. I've been following each other for a while on the socials and talked about doing a podcast, and finally are able to sit down and get to know him better. Been reading up on your story a little bit online, and super interesting, just the demographic. I mean, we've had people on the platform before that have done clothing, but yours is very unique. So excited to learn about it and learn more about what you do and a little bit about your story. So thank you for coming on to the podcast today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Of course. First Australian on the podcast.
Yes.
So there's that.
Yes.
Dang, put
Yes.
that cherry, huh?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But again, like you said, thank you for taking time out your day. Doing this means a lot. But as I said, you're from Australia, so just kind of give us a little backstory of how you got to America.
Yeah, good question. So I grew up in Australia. I grew up on a farm or a ranch, you guys would call it over here, and was there, and then ended up going to Sydney for high school, boarding school. Did college thereafter, and was playing a fair bit of rugby there. And then once you graduate in Australia after college, you actually can get a 1-year visa. It's like a exchange visa to come over, and you can come to the US, and you've only got a small window to make that happen. So within 1 year of graduating, you have to do it. And so I knew I wanted to come to America and just travel around and experience the American culture. And so I actually came to Austin to play rugby here for a year with the Austin Blacks, which is just a local club here. And so how we got to Austin originally was actually me and 3 other mates. We were doing a 3-month road trip around the US. We kind of all just, quit our jobs / some people took some fair bit of time off, and man, we started East Coast. We actually started in Kentucky and then did around there for a while. First day in America was Lexington, Kentucky.
Nice.
Turned out to be an amazing week. But we did, New York, Boston, Chicago, down to Nashville. And then we hired a car, and we spent the next, basically month and a half just driving through the South and into Texas. And it was when we got to Austin that we met the rugby club, and things just kind of worked out. They invited us to come back, and, the rest
Obviously,
is kind
you're
of
here, but you've been to a lot of cities, so what has been the best city?
Man, I can't fault Austin. That's why I'm still here. I haven't moved in 6 years. But I love Nashville. I'm a big country music guy, so nice. I love Nashville. Tuscaloosa, Alabama is definitely up there.
Did you go during football season?
We did.
Yeah.
Nice.
So we went to an Alabama-Ole Miss game.
Nice.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's a good one to go. Yeah.
And then I went back for the Iron Bowl.
That's another good one.
Nice, another good one.
A year later. A lot of fond memories there. But, man, America is, Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Mm-hmm. Just, some places in Florida. There's just so many cool places. I've even been to Norman.
Yeah.
Oklahoma.
Did you go to OU game?
We didn't.
Didn't?
That's
Good.
still on my list. I'd like to do that. That'd be
You ain't
pretty
gotta
cool.
go. That's fine.
Nah, if
you
you
ain't
want to
gotta
see
give
some,
them no
you wanna see
money.
some championships.
Yeah, you ain't gotta give him no
yeah.
money. They're
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
That's great. We're slacking, dude. He's been to Iron Bowl.
Yeah, I
He's been
know.
to Ole Miss and
I know.
Alabama. We ain't been nothing.
Yeah, I know. Well,
We've been to. Well, I've been to.
I went
I've
to
been to
Red- I
some
went to
Texas
Red- I went to
games.
Red
That's-
River
that's-
last year.
Yeah, that's
you
about
did?
it.
Yeah, that was a crazy experience. Got to go every year now. Red River. It's like that's a one of one for sure.
I would love to do. We actually went
Yeah.
there one year. We went to the state fair, and I went with my 2 Australian friends, my girlfriend at the time, and my 2 friends, like the plan was we'll just like sneak in and go through.
Yeah, a lot of people do that too.
And so they did that. My girlfriend didn't want to, and I was like, oh, well, you guys just go.
Yeah.
They snuck in and they said it was amazing, but I never actually went in the game, so I was a little pissed off about that.
Yeah, we'll have to make that happen.
He's trying
trying to
to
get him to go.
get me to go, but I don't know.
He's
We'll
fine.
see.
It's
He
hot.
act-
It was
he-
hot.
He acts like he's gonna like fight a fan or something.
might.
It's like no, it's not
I
gonna.
might.
That's not gonna happen.
They're split, right? You're on.
Yeah,
Texas on one
there's
side.
it's literally split evenly. Like there's you're gonna see a ton of Texas people.
Nah,
and you're gonna see a
he
ton
said
of
that
Oklahoma.
it's pretty like everybody like kind of respects each other. It's not like anything crazy
No,
going on.
and then obviously after the game, like if you're on the losing end, like you might, if you're a little sensitive, you might be upset. But you know, it's part of it. Though.
It's part of it,
dude.
yeah.
Some of those games have been just the narrowest margins. Like in the
yeah,
last
they've
couple
been
of years.
recently. They've been fun.
Yeah.
Win or lost. I mean,
And they've been stressful.
Yeah.
the Caleb Williams game. I mean, we lost it, but like that was probably one of the craziest games that I've ever seen in my life. One of the craziest performances I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And like you just got to tip your hat to it. There's not
Yeah.
much you can
What are
do
you
about
gonna
it.
do?
Like, hey, he came in, did his thing, and we lost. I mean, but that was one game I wasn't mad at that we lost, just because I was like, you deserve it.
Yeah.
you deserve it.
Yeah.
Real quick, what are some like bucket list college football games you want to go? Because you see, we were talking off camera. That seems to really be like one of your favorite sports. So I'm just curious.
Yeah. I'd like to go back to, I've been to a Georgia game, but I didn't go in the stadium. So I'd like to do that.
Okay.
You're tailgating?
Yeah.
Athens, I
we
heard, is a
tailgated in Tuscaloosa. I've heard the Ole Miss tailgating is unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
So we went there, but we missed the game. So I reckon that would be up there.
Yeah.
Get to an Ole Miss game.
Yeah. SEC.
Yeah. I mean, now Texas in the SEC. is
Yeah,
pretty-
no,
pretty
exactly.
sweet.
Yeah, I told
Both
him,
of us, yeah.
Yeah, I told him like this year, Georgia and Florida coming here, even if you don't go to a game, like just going to DKR and Bevo Boulevard, being around like another fan base that actually cares, like
Yeah.
that's gonna be fun.
Yeah, it did strike me. I mean, the tailgating at Austin's pretty great, but I mean, some of those southern schools.
Well, Ole Miss
LSU too. They make
and
Gators.
Mississippi State, I think, I can tell have some of the best fan bases because their baseball fan base is so strong too.
Yeah,
And baseball is like it's America's pastime, as they would say.
Yeah.
Like it's just not as
So if
popular.
you're passionate about
if you're
baseball,
passionate
yeah,
about baseball,
yeah.
I can only imagine about
it's
football.
gonna be easy to support football.
Yeah,
for sure.
What got you into football? Like you've only been here 6 years, but like you've been to all these games. You came here and then you're like, all right, let's go to Alabama and let's go to a game.
Yeah, I guess like so in Australia growing up, you know, our pop culture really is America, right? So we grew up watching American movies, music. Like I grew up thinking that a normal Christmas was a white Christmas because that's what I see on Home Alone.
Yeah.
Right? It's like,
Yeah.
you know, in Australia, it's the middle of summer and Christmas time. So growing up, you're always like, well,
It's the same here, so you didn't.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Literally.
Finally that I moved to. But so, you know, you're always aware of the NFL, college football. I never really understood it that much because we harder to watch when you're over there. But particularly, you know, back in the early 2000s growing up. But when we did that trip, that 3-month trip around the US, I guess people we've spoken to had been to games before. They're like, you have to do it. So we booked a few months in ahead some tickets to the Alabama game. And, man, that was just the experience of a lifetime. Like, we just got, I mean, we'd been drinking for like 4 weeks in a row by the time we got to that point. But we rocked up to Alabama. I think, you know, we'd messaged a girl on Instagram being like, hey, we're coming into town. what should we do? And they're
Yeah.
like, oh, come pre-game at our place. So we were just like, okay, awesome. We went out to Innisfree on the Friday night, woke up Saturday morning, and we just go to their house
all day, and it's like all day.
And it's just like just girls coming in from, you know, and we were just like, this is incredible. We're just tailgating, pre-gaming, and then they're like, come with us to the quad where all the actual tailgating happens. And it's just, you know, tent lined up, and the people were just so nice. Probably because we were Australian-ish, like they wanted to be very hospitable, but it was just like, come into our tent. What can we get you to drink? What can we get you to eat? Are you hungry? And then we like, that was an amazing experience in itself. And then it's like, okay, well, time to go to the game. And we go in, walk through, and you kind of, I just remembered, you know, when you go into your bay or whatever, and you're just going through that little tunnel, you come out, and all just the bright lights of a night game in Tuscaloosa, like that was just like mind blowing to us. We've never seen anything on that scale in Australia that I've been to, right?
And that's a college stadium.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was just like, boom. Okay,
and that's what I tell my friends too that are like trying to get into college football. I'm like, it's just an experience. Like and like every single major team has their own tradition, their way they do things. Like there's nothing that's replicated, I think, in any sport besides maybe soccer.
We say it's like the best sport, but we don't mean it as like football's the best sport. Like college football is like just the best sport to watch, in our opinion. Just because like we're talking off camera, each game just has such a big meaning to it. Like if you lose, it has such an impact on your season, and you have to go out there and play each down, each quarter, 100%. Or else your season could just be over like that.
Oh, 100%.
And there's just college game day, the tailgating, like there's just nothing like college football.
Yeah. What I really love about it is how big of fans the actual students are, right? Because, you know, in Australia, I played for my university rugby club team, right? And, you know, we'd get a crowd there of, you know, maybe a couple hundred people was a big game and whatnot. But then you go to, like, we go into Alabama, and the student section is just packed and rocking, and all the students are getting into it, you know, pre-gaming, tailgating, plus everyone else who ever went there, or, you know, you go to Tuscaloosa and like that town is Alabama, right? It's like everyone, whether you're an alumni, a student, or just, you know, a cook or a chef, or you work in the coffee shop or whatever it is, like everything, you're Alabama, right? And it's just like, wow, that's such a unique thing that doesn't really exist in Australia. It's very just like eye-opening to come here and see that level of passion.
That's cool. That's cool.
A school and a sport.
It's dope to hear it from like someone who's not
that's
not American, and like it's their first time seeing it. That's
cool.
dope.
Yeah.
Were they able to keep up with you on the drinking?
We did pretty well, I think. Yeah. Actually, man, I mean, by that point, there was a few of us that were pretty shaky. But, but anyway, we did another 2 months of it, so we got through it.
You got through it.
Yeah. So you end up coming to Austin, playing rugby, making your roots here. Kind of what were your, like, outside of the rugby, what were some of your like initial thoughts of Austin and the town that made you really want to settle down here, especially being from Australia and settling down in the U.S.?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I mean, we chose Texas, and we always kind of wanted to be in Texas. You know, I grew up in the country in Australia, and that, I guess, country mentality of just people being nice to each other, very friendly, kind-hearted, down to earth. We saw a lot of similarities with that in Texas. You know, that's even before we moved here, right? Just the idea of Texas was very similar to that, to those kind of values. And then we got to Austin, and before we got to Austin, I actually thought this was going to be like a country town.
I was going to ask that. Do you have a stereotype about Texas before you came?
Well, yeah. I mean, like ranching and cowboys and whatnot. And I mean, I'm pretty bad at, like, I was just looking at Google Maps and everything. You know, all the streets are gridded, and it's very hard to grasp the size. You know, so I'm looking at downtown Austin, which compared to Sydney is very small.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, yeah, it's going to be a small little country town.
Yeah.
This is going to be awesome. I was like, yeah, I'll probably be getting some work on a ranch in my first year that I'm here, playing a bit of rugby, and maybe there'll be like, maybe like, you know, 3 or 4 bars in the town. That'll
wow.
be pretty cool.
Yeah.
We rocked into Austin, and I remember we were at College Station the night before. Anyway, we rocked into Austin, and turns out ACL was on that weekend, which we had no idea what that was either.
It was in October.
And then so we just had 5 nights of, absolute debauchery out in, 36 and West 6 and ACL. And I just remember thinking, oh yeah, I could live here. Went to the Barton Springs, Rainy Street.
Yeah. Rip Rainy Street when it used to be fun.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, man, it was just like, and then we did that. We finished the rest of our trip, went home for like a month or 2, packed our bags, came back. And I think we had such a unique experience moving here because we joined the rugby club straight away. So you immediately have like 60 friends that just show you the ropes. And, to your point, back when Rainy Street was fun, every Sunday would be Sunday fun day there. The whole, all the guys would go there.
Yeah.
And, me being 24 at the time was just like, this is the best ever. I'm having the best gap year. Because at that stage, I thought I'd just be here for a year and was going to go
just
home.
kind of like.
So I was just having a good time. And I just, it was like the laid back lifestyle I really loved about Austin. That like kind of keep Austin weird, that hippie-ness. I met a lot of guys who grew up in Austin and just kind of got their take and their perspective of the town and whatnot. Obviously, it's changed a lot in the last 6 years.
Changed
Yeah, a lot. Yeah.
It's changed a lot.
Especially for us, like being from here, and then like I went away to school and then came back and then even since like we started the media company to now, it's like lately it's been, for me at least, I don't know, I can't speak on them, but for me at least, it's been like kind of LA-ish now. Like, and I think it's more so of like the space of what we're doing, like kind of meet, some transactional, kind of get that vibe at times. But all in all, it's still like a great place to live and a lot to do.
It's
here.
the smallest, biggest city.
Yeah.
Like, everyone I feel like knows each other, but then there's also so many people you don't know too. So it's
I find there's just so many people like on vacation here for the weekend. Like, you go out and you meet people and they're just in town, like all the bachelorette parties.
It's just dope because like it's the smallest, biggest city, but like there's just so much to do here for how small it is, and that's why a lot of people do come here is because you never really run out of things to do. There's always something going on. For one, for two, if you're an outdoorsy person, like there's a lot of things to go visit and do.
There's something for everyone.
Yeah, for three, just the nightlife here it's fun. So it's like there's just always something to do here.
Yeah. It's such a unique city. I just love it because it operates. You can 12 months of the year, whereas similar towns like in Nashville, right, during winter it's pretty cold. Pretty miserable. So even though it gets really hot here during the summer, it's bearable. It's better than the cold winter, right?
Yeah.
So, but man, and I mean it was different, but just the cheapness of like, I remember we got here. You want to go on Rainy Street, you can get like $2 or $3 domestic beers, or buying beers in a gas station. We can't do that in Australia.
Really?
Yeah. No, you got to go to like a liquor store to buy any of your alcohol. So to come here and just be like, man, walk into a gas station, they have tall boys on ice as you walk in.
No, that's awesome.
It's a whole new world.
Yeah, they're like $3. You're just like, man, this is living.
I ain't going back home.
Yeah, seriously, it's like, so even just little stuff like that is just a great change up. And particularly, when you first move over here, just to be having fun.
Yeah. It also helps that Austin is very diverse too.
Yeah.
There's just so many different types of people here too. So it's like you can't go wrong with anyone or anything. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of the one thing, even with all the change, it's brought new food, new restaurants, new experiences to Austin, which, take it or leave it, whether you like it or not. But I think that's great.
Yeah, a lot of people coming into Austin and like starting things like communities or brands like you, and it's been awesome. So kind of diving into that a little bit. You moved here. You've been here for 6 years. I'd read like online that that's kind of like in your family heritage and lineage with like the wool and like how that's been developed just throughout your family timeline. with that being the case, was you starting your clothing company, was that already something that was in the works, or did you decide to really lock into that when you settled in Austin?
Yeah. So, I mean, to your point, I mean, I grew up on the farm and we've been producing merino wool for, the last 120, 30 years. So I've always been around the production side of, growing the wool, looking after the sheep, doing the work and things like that. But as a farmer, wool grower, you basically, help the animals grow wool for 12 months, you shear it off, and then it gets sold at auction, and it's pretty much the end of your involvement with it. And so, growing up, all of Australia's wool kind of got exported overseas, which it still does today, but none of the products we really saw in anything that we would wear or could wear, right? Most of it was going to fine suiting or overseas. It was only around the kind of the late 90s, early 2000s, they even started developing products and fabrics that you could wear next to skin. So I grew up wearing basically nothing merino. And if I did wear wool, it was my grandma used to knit our, sweaters, by hand, and that's what we would wear. So, and it was pretty itchy.
Yeah, that's what
most people think wool
thinking
is.
about. Like it's just like an itchy fabric,
Exactly. And so, even as a wool grower, we didn't grow up wearing the fabric or the fiber that we even grow. So it wasn't until, I'd always kind of question that, but, you're just young and living life and whatnot. It wasn't until I was probably in my early 20s when I kind of started to work professionally, and you're going into work in a cotton button-up and in Sydney, in the middle of summer or whenever, and it's just hot. Then you come home and it smells the next day. And I was like, and I was playing a lot of sport at the time, so working out, and I was working out in synthetic, like polyester, because that's what all your sporting teams get given. And I'm like, this stuff stinks. And then, I started working for this, the Woolmark company, which is kind of a marketing company on behalf of all wool growers in Australia. And I started working with them and kind of actually getting educated on the science of wool and the different benefits, etc. Because you don't really even learn that growing up on the farm, right? It's, as I said, the wool goes away from us. We're all about the production side. Anyway, so I was just was like, hang on. And I got a sample or two of a t-shirt, which I wore to the gym today, and that's 8 years ago that I got it. And I was like, this thing is incredible. Why is all my clothes not made of this, right? It doesn't smell, it breathes, it's sweat wicks, it's super, super soft and comfortable. Like, why aren't our everyday clothes made of this? Like, why aren't I going to work in a polo shirt made from merino wool, not cotton that smells and, gets really sweaty and gross? So that's when the wheels started turning. But I didn't have any money at the time, and as I said, I wanted to move overseas, and it wasn't until I had been here for a year or two where I actually was working professionally and was saving a little bit that I was like, okay, I have the means to be able to take the first steps into that. But yeah, to your point, it was kind of just it was in the back of my mind, and I had the questions that I wanted to answer, but it wasn't anything connected really with the family business back home.
Starting off, obviously you have the wool, and you start having money to accumulate that, and obviously grew up around it, so you knew where to get it, you knew how to process it. So what were like some of the first steps after formulating the idea of like getting into business, especially with like merch and stuff? Because I know merch is super hard to do. Like, do you pre-order it? Do you for most people they're printing on blanks, right? But since you have like the actual means of getting that fabric, now it's like, okay, we have the, let's say, raw material, like finding like a manufacturer and somewhere to get it like mass produced and stuff like that. So what was the process of all that?
Yeah, it was very overwhelming at the start. Just on, okay, where do I go? How's this all going to work? Trying to put all the pieces together in your mind. I think the best thing that I did was just actually start by emailing some people and asking the questions. And I used to work for the Woolmark company, and their job is to help market wool, and they work with a lot of manufacturers, designers, brands to help promote and help them access wool and use merino wool in their products. So I kind of started there, and then family friend, he is a director for a manufacturer, and he's been in the business longer than pretty much anyone in the industry. And he kind of just connected me with that manufacturer. And lucky for me, it was a lot simpler than I was thinking it was going to be. It was really just kind of a case of chatting to them about what I wanted to create and the type of products. And then, they'd send me the fabric samples. Once I had that, then you can choose your colors. And then we got kind of into the design work. And then, once you're happy with the design, then they work on actually producing the order. But it can be very difficult, or it can be very simple, depending on who your manufacturer is, the way you actually want to produce something, and actually what you're producing. So something like this, it's about choosing the right fabric, design, color, etc. But sometimes if you wanted to do your own knitwear, in which you actually design and say, hey, I have this sketch, I want to design a sweater that has this on it and this on it and this on it. You've got to work in a lot more detail with, you've got to find a knitwear specialist who, and then you've got to find the yarn that you want to use and the colors that you want to use, and then you've got to connect those two. So all of that can be pretty logistically difficult. I guess the biggest thing for me was like, I don't want to start doing that, right? Make it simple, test things quickly, get things done cheaply, cost effectively, and see how the product goes, right? If it's no good, well, then we can move on. And luckily for me, the manufacturer I am working with was really great at that.
Are they in Australia?
No, they're in Shanghai.
How hard is it to communicate with them, since like the time zones?
Mostly done via email. I'm hoping to take a trip there this year sometime, because 98% of Australia's wool is exported overseas, and then about 80% of that goes to China. Like, they're number one for pretty much processing. I mean, the really fine top end stuff will go to Italy, and that kind of goes into your Loro Piana, Zegna type brands, where you're paying $5,000 for a polo kind of thing. But they're using the finest wool that is basically available on earth. But most of it is China, like your middle to upper higher class products, all done in China.
Wool, is that like something that y'all can like make good or bad yourselves, or is it like on the is it a sheep, right?
Yeah. So,
is it on the sheep?
Yeah. So good question. So I mean, it's pretty technical, but basically all sheep grow wool, right? So wool is like the umbrella term for the keratin fiber that a sheep grows. Within that, there is varying degrees of, I guess you would call it quality, but it's kind of, different types of wool are better for different products. So the finer the wool is, the actual fiber itself in diameter, the softer the wool is going to be, and the softer that softness or that fineness impacts the itch factor. Right, so we're just talking about how growing up wearing itchy wool sweaters. So there's a point at around 19.5 microns. We measure the diameter in microns, which is I think 1,000th of a meter. If the fiber is thicker than 19.5 microns, it's actually going to be too thick. So when it is against your skin, it's not going to bend, and that's what causes that prickle or that itch factor, right? Whereas if it's under 19.5 microns, it's fine enough so that when it hits your skin, it actually bends and isn't itchy, doesn't cause any prickle. And that is really important because only merino sheep grow wool that fine.
Wow.
And then so merino is the breed of sheep. So there's lots of different other breeds of sheep which grow thick wool. Predominantly they're bred for meat as the main purpose, and then the wool is a byproduct. Merino sheep are grown for their wool, so they grow more wool, softer, and they have a smaller body per se than some other sheep. But to your question, even within that merino sheep breed category, we can breed the sheep to grow a certain thickness of the wool, right? So people who are growing the 12.5 micron wool, which goes, to Italy, they're selectively breeding those sheep to grow that fine of a fleece. And, so we can pick whether we want to grow, 16.5, 17.5, 18, whatever it may be.
So basically you just have a male and a female with the same wool mate to
Pretty
like
much,
make that same wool and just keep reproducing.
Exactly. So, you selectively breed. So the way it gets that fine is if you've got a flock, you pick your 2 finest animals and breed them together and slowly just always pick the finest ones to breed from.
Wow.
And the one that your grandfather did was what was his like?
So he basically created a type of merino animal which had very soft and fine wool, but also was bigger in stature and more of they call it plain bodied than what was being bred at the time. It's probably too much of detail to go into now for the listeners, but basically they used to, back when he was there, the flavor of sheep they liked was the Vermont sheep, which was very wrinkly. And so the more wrinkle it has, the more surface area is, so the more wool it grows. But he kind of was very against that because there's a lot of issues if it's too wrinkly, particularly in the Australian heat. And anyway, so he kind of bred his own style of animal. And he was kind of like a pioneer to do so. Wow. And then, just so happened that everything kind of swung his way and, everyone kind of cottoned on that, hey, that's actually a better way to do things.
Wow. That's cool.
But yeah, so his bloodline that he created is still what is in our family Merino stud today.
Nice. That's cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And then I guess the upkeep of all that, like I'm sure you said you grew up on a farm, ranch lifestyle, and all those sheep are in Australia. So like how often are you like going back and forth, going home, and then like I guess like having people like oversee all that too, like the logistics, I guess.
Yeah, I'm here full time, so I try and get back. I have been back 3 times this year already, but
wow.
It's mainly for weddings and a little bit of Christmas in there too. But like my dad and my uncle, they run everything back home, and that's their jobs. They're on there full time. They've been doing it since they were born, right? Because they grew up in the same kind of way that I did. So they're full time, and it's a full time job. Even growing up, we couldn't really go on that many family holidays because some different times of year, particularly around summer, it's a very busy time for us. You have the threat of bushfires. So we'd go on a family beach holiday for the week, and my dad would be able to come for 2 days, and then he'd have to go back and work. But if you ask him, he absolutely loves it, right? Yeah. The lifestyle is amazing. It's a lot of hard work because there's thousands of animals that are basically your pets and you're looking after them. But it's a fantastic lifestyle. You're outside, you're your own boss. But it's amazing. You grow up learning to work hard. There's pretty long days.
Yeah.
What's like the biggest thing that y'all have to like look after when y'all are taking care of them? But besides like obviously the other animals and whatnot, but like just keeping their wool just fine. Like, do y'all have to like, I guess, bathe them like often to like just keep the wool like looking nice and good?
No, we don't bathe them. So, they are a natural animal, right? So their wool grows in a way that kind of is tight and keeps the dust out. In Australia, it can get pretty dusty, particularly when there's like a drought. So you'll see the sheep and it looks grey or, a light brown from all the dust. And then you'll open it up and the fleece is just pure white on the inside because it all just keeps tight together and doesn't let the dust in. Giving them enough feed is a huge thing. In some years, like we've had the last couple of years, there's a lot of rain and a lot of feed and grass about. But there's other times when you can have a terrible, terrible drought and it's just an absolute dust bowl. And so you've got to buy grain or hay and to actually feed those animals and keep them alive. So feed and water is really the biggest thing. And then you've kind of got, disease and things like that, that you've just got to monitor them and whatnot.
How long does it, or I guess like whenever you like, what's it called? Shear? So whenever you do that and then they're basically like, they don't have any more like wool in their fleece. Like how long does that take to normally like grow all the way back to where you can do it again?
So 12 months.
Okay. So a full year.
Yeah. We shear them every 12 months.
Gotcha.
And that usually puts around 100 mils or 110 mils of fleece length on them. And then, you shear it off again and they regrow it. I mean, that's what makes wool of any type such an amazing resource, right? Because you think about all of our clothes that are made today out of synthetics, that's made from oil out of the ground. It's a finite resource. And then you've got merino wool, which literally just regrows every single year on the animal, just using grass and sunlight and water. So it's
like a plant.
Yeah.
exactly right.
It's like a plant.
A lot more clean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And wool is basically the oldest textile in the world. Like humans and sheep have been basically, coexisting for the last, 6, 7, 8,000 years. There's been a wool trade for that long, which is pretty crazy to think about. I mean, even what they say in the Bible, it's like the golden fleece. They reference it. Like it's because synthetics, they only came around in like the 60s and 70s. Like before that, people had to wear wool, cotton, or hemp. Like that's all there was to wear.
Is cotton cheaper like to produce than wool? Is that why it's more common?
Yeah, you can grow that at a mass scale. And it's been around for a long time as well. Wool's definitely, it's less abundant now in terms of quantity than it was. And that's really due to the price. It's an expensive thing to produce for a farmer. Like there's a lot of costs involved. Land costs, the cost of buying and selling animals, labor costs, all of these things that go into it. And so the price of wool is really, that's how we get paid, right? So when synthetics came around, all of a sudden you've got this super, super cheap alternative to creating fabric and clothing that really hurt the wool industry in terms of people being able to survive.
Do you feel like wool feels the best?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. Like it's not only super, I mean, it's got different factors or different benefits for what you want. I mean, you can go the angle that it's very soft.
Is that wool?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, this is one I shop. So 100% merino. It's super, super soft. Like when you touch it, you'll open up and you feel it. You're like, dang, this is like, what is this, But then you put it on and wool's amazing compared to other fibers, I think, because of, we say it keeps you comfortable. And that's not to do with really the softness. That's to do with keeping your body a correct temperature throughout the day and process whatever you're doing, right? So the fact that it will sweat wick, moisture management. So as you're going through your day, in and out of buildings, whatnot, air conditioning, heat, it'll take that sweat off your body and release it back into the atmosphere, right? It'll evaporate. Wow. So what that does is actually keep your skin drier than, say, a polyester shirt. So when you wear like polyester or even cotton, particularly in Texas when it sweats a lot, it creates a little microclimate between the garment and your skin. And so when that's like there's too much moisture in there, that heats up, and that's why you feel kind of clammy, and you're going, man.
And that's when
exactly.
No, stuff starts sticking on you. It's like,
So that's just for me. I mean, that is such a huge factor, particularly just for everyday wear of merino wool, right? It's just you can wear it all day, every day, and it's going to perform that task. Same with when you're working out. Like it's just, I wear merino every single day when I go to the gym. But some days I'm like, or rugby training, I don't want to like ruin my wool, whatever. I'll wear a cotton shirt. And man, within like 2 minutes, I'm just like, oh my God. Like, how does anyone even wear these things still?
So that's nice. They're very breathable. They look durable too.
Yeah.
They look very durable.
I mean, you look after them right, they're going to be around.
Are you supposed to like
time.
clean them or wash them a certain way?
Yeah.
So you can hand wash. These ones you can machine wash. You just kind of do it on delicate.
Yeah.
Yeah. But as I said, they're antibacterial, so they're never going to need to be washed because of the odor, right? So you can actually just hang them up, let it air out and dry, and it'll just smell like
Wow, that's crazy.
wool again.
Like
Yeah.
even if you like spray cologne on it or
So if you spray cologne, because there's no bacteria, that it'll actually stay smelling like your cologne.
Wow.
wow.
Yeah, that's the kind of the weird part.
Yeah.
So the reason it does what's antibacterial, which is odor resistant, is because when the reason your other clothes smell, cotton, polyester, whatnot, when you sweat, it's not actually your sweat that is causing the odor. It's the bacteria on your skin that break down that sweat, which cause the odor. So your cotton shirts and your polyester, that bacteria can actually stay on those garments and live, and that's what causes the odor. So that's why if you want a cotton shirt or a polyester shirt to the gym and you chuck it in the corner and it's just like pungent, or if you put it back in your bag and you're just like, pull it out a day later, whereas wool is antibacterial, so that bacteria can't survive on the garment and keep causing that odor.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
You started thinking about this after college, correct? Like
Yeah.
you starting your own business?
Pretty much, yeah.
And that was 6 years ago?
Yeah, that was probably about 8 years ago.
8 years ago?
When I was kind of like, this is what
ideas formulating and
people
stuff.
And then
should
you
be
started your company when?
2022, end of
2022,
21.
so
Yeah.
2 years ago. So how obviously you had to do a lot of research. As you seem very educated on the matter.
Yeah.
So how much research like went into that before you even like I'm opening up this store and here's the
Well,
stuff?
yeah, I mean, a lot of it was my job before when I was working for the
Mm-hmm.
Woolmark company. So that's where I picked up a lot of that knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And they're always doing science experiments, et cetera, and have the data and the backup. So, you just pick up stuff from there. Like, wool's actually, merino proven to give you a better night's sleep, for example, right? Because it keeps your temperature more constant. And you're not getting these spikes of hot and cold that you may when you're, you ever woken up in like a hot sweat if you're wearing polyester, even if you've fallen asleep under like those polyester blankets and those really soft ones you get from Target and
Yeah.
ever fallen asleep under one of those and being like, oh my God, you wake up and it's just like a sweat box. Very different with if there was a merino blanket.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Can you? So I guess you can really make anything out of it. Like you can make a pillow, a
Yeah.
blanket, or
Yeah.
dang.
Yeah. Socks, underwear. I mean, most people that I meet here are like, oh yeah, merino wool. I have some socks, or I wear it going skiing, and it's amazing. But that's all they think about it.
Is your hat wool?
No, this is a cotton hat.
Cotton hat.
It's just-
Can you make hats out of wool?
You can.
Yeah.
You can. They're mainly like got to be felted when that.
It's probably not. What's the word? Probably just doesn't make the most sense feasibility wise, like because it's a hat.
Yeah.
I would say.
I just like,
Yeah.
as much as I love the merino wool, like I'm a fashion brand too, right?
Yeah.
So I want it to look good.
Yeah.
I just haven't found any wool hats that I really like.
Yeah.
There's a couple in America that do like old school baseball stuff out of wool hats.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Because all that stuff would have been made from wool back
Yeah,
in the day.
makes sense.
All that retro gear.
Yep.
I forget what their name is, but yeah, I just haven't found anything that really ticks the box in terms of wool hats yet.
So I guess with making your clothing brand and all that stuff, were you always, I guess, considered yourself like fashionable, or did you kind of just like wear whatever, and then now you've had to like, maybe that was something like learning how to like put outfits and stuff together and things like that? Is that like a talent you
I'd
always
say
had?
I'm still learning.
Okay.
A lot of my close friends and family would say I'm not very stylish. But I wanted to get into the fashion side for Sir W because I wanted people to wear it more every day, right? To be able to wear merino and to work, to dinner with friends, out on a night out and look good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of brands out there that just focus on wool's practicality. And so they're kind of hiking brands or exercise outdoor brands, which is fine, but I don't want to look like I'm going for a hike every day. right? I want to be able to look and dress well, particularly going to work or a date or a meeting or whatnot, but also be super comfortable at the same time.
Is Merino native to Australia?
No, so it's actually a Spanish Merino. So originated in Spain, and then they brought it over to Australia when they started, discovering Australia. And that's just kind of really where it was perfected and took off in terms of creating a wool that's super fine. And the sheep just kind of thrived in the Australian environment. And now we're the best in the world. I mean, 90% of the world's merino wool, so like apparel wool that you can wear next to skin, comes from Australia.
That's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
It's from Spain, then it migrates all the way to Australia. That's miles and miles and miles away, and it thrives there, not even its own
I know.
environment.
Well,
that was
yeah,
made in.
so much of it comes down to like the animal husbandry and the practices of, selective breeding and whatnot to create, what they wanted to. But for whatever reason, I guess the Spanish just didn't see the value in it.
Or care enough to even do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on your website and I'm like looking at, the products obviously, and the price point honestly is really good for what, what you're telling us and what it sounds like and things like that. Kind of like, how did you determine the price point, I guess? Because I know you were saying that wool, I guess, it's not bought as often as some of the other fabrics. So how did you come up with a price point because you did say it's expensive to maintain and all that, to where you're able to sell it and not outprice people, but you're also able to make a good return on that.
Yeah, that was a difficult one, and it still kind of is difficult. It's a bit of play with it a little bit. I think what I wanted people to be able to do is have access to it, right? So I'm such a strong believer in when people experience it that they will love it, that I'm kind of prepared to, have a lesser margin to get people experiencing it, because they will fall in love with it and be a long-term customer. That's kind of the way I approach. I mean, I tried to use the simple, I guess, business processes of kind of your costs, and then you've got your wholesale margin and whatnot. And I'm probably priced a little low for what a business analyst would say.
Okay.
But at the same time, I want it to be accessible, right? Because I want people to have the ability to experience it. Most people in America have never even heard of merino wool.
I didn't until now.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Right, exactly. So the last thing I want to do is price someone out of it. I want to give people the opportunity to experience it and wear it and fall in love with it. And then, ultimately that's going to be good in the long run.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been, as I'm kind of growing now into the wholesale market, some of that pricing probably doesn't make sense, but it's, we'll cross that bridge.
It's all a learning stage, Yeah. It's all a learning stage. So, we just had another gentleman on last week. His name was Jacoby. He's from South Korea, and he throws these events for cold plunging. And his what would you call them? Event started at $30. Then they went up to $40. Then they went up to $50. Then $85. But it's all learning. So you know that you have the people to back you. Then you can start gradually raising the price. Because hearing just everything you got to go to Australia, then you got to go to China, then you got to come here. That's not cheap.
It's not cheap, and wool is only 1% of the world's fabrics are made out of wool, right? So it's a very unique, already rare fiber to use, and as I said, it's used in the highest luxury brands in the world, in Loro Piana, Zegna, and it's $5,000 a polo shirt.
I'm assuming your uncle and dad are your business partners.
Yeah.
So then that you have to split cut with them too.
Yeah. So I don't go directly through them yet. I'd have to buy the wool off them, right? So it's they run their own separate business. They have their own costs, and I'm kind of starting at the other end of the supply chain, and we'll gradually work backwards towards them. Just because, if I had all the money in the world, I'd of course do that. But you've just kind of got to start with what's affordable and just aim to make a great product.
Yeah,
which I can absolutely. So, but I do want to kind of get into that luxury range of price point and clothing, just because it's where the margins are, and it's a unique luxury fiber, right? So it's not that available, even if you wanted it to be.
That's kind of what I was gonna get into, is like some of that luxury margins and price points and stuff like that, because you know how people are, like they hear about, for example, like us hearing about merino wool. It's like you go up to someone and you're like, oh, I like that polo. Like, yeah, it's merino wool. They're like, what is that? They're going to be intrigued to learn more about it. And then, it sounds expensive, like, cause it is, right? So, I guess like getting into those price points and things like that. Do you ever plan on, in the near future, like obviously having, you could have like kind of like your essentials, like everyday, price point of products, and then you could have like I think Polo, I forget what it's called, like Polo Black or something like that. But they have like or like Kith has like a regular like kind of lower price point, and then they have like a crazy price point where like shirts are like $550 and stuff like that. Do you ever think you're gonna kind of go in that route?
It depends. I mean, I think things like t-shirt and your basic tees can stay in that kind of regular price point. Just because it's an everyday item and whatnot. But if you get into like maybe the sweater ranges as well, that's going to go up there, and depends what the finer wool that I use, the more expensive that it will become, right? So if I wanted to use wool that is, so this is all 18.5 micron, if you want to get into your 16, 15 micron, which is even softer than this, you're going to get into that higher price point, just because.
What's the lowest it goes?
I think the world record's like 9.3 or something like that. But let's say all those luxury brands, they use around 12.5 micron. And man, like if you ever get the chance to go into like a Xenia store or a Loro Piana and go and feel their range of merino wool, like you're just like, oh my god, what the hell is this?
Do you have any shirts around that level? No.
No, I can't afford any of those. But yeah, I mean that, and they have just a store full of it, right? And there's only a very finite amount of like wool produced at that level every year.
That's crazy to think about, because you said 1% of the world's material is made of wool, and then you have their whole store is made of that 12.5%.
Yeah.
So that's like probably what 0.01%.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think there's only like 50 to 55 bales of that type of wool produced every year. And those growers in Australia like are specialized. That's what they do, and they've kind of committed down that route. Because even as a wool grower, you've got to choose which is the best for your business operation, right? Because you grow that really, very fine wool, you get paid more for it. But an animal that produces that finer wool that you've bred for, it can't produce as much of it, right? Because it's usually a smaller animal that produces a finer fiber. So there's that whole business side of things of the farming as well, which is, just more complexity to the whole industry.
Yeah.
But yeah, those kind of products that Loro Piana and Xenia have are just top notch.
Go ahead.
Do they have those stores in the US, like in LA or Miami?
Yeah, they got yes, for sure. I know there's one in New York, definitely, and I believe there'd be some in LA as well.
Because I've been on Rodeo Drive like a couple times, so I figured it'd probably be on like one of those types of streets
for sure. Yeah.
Your price point isn't really that bad for like just sitting here and hearing everything you're saying. Like, I feel like that is relatively low, because I mean, a regular T-shirt nowadays is like $40, and you pay a little bit more and you get something that's gonna feel good, last a long time, something that's gonna keep you comfortable when you're out for a long time. Like, that's really not that bad of a price point.
Yeah, I consider myself very cheap still for what I'm offering and what my product is. Particularly even when you look at what else is out there, right? I mean, you can go into some stores, down on South Congress that are literally selling cotton sweatpants for $180.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? It's just, and people buy it, because of that brand. And you could buy the same pair at Target probably for $40.
Yeah.
Yeah, the branding is everything. Like some people just like they'll have to have that logo on there just because it shows that okay, like he's wearing, for example, like Lululemon or something like that.
I
like,
was literally thinking of
like
Lululemon the whole entire time.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, like very comfortable, very nice stuff, but like you can get the same quality or not close with like a brand like Fabletics, which is still not like the cheapest, but it's cheaper than Lululemon.
Yeah.
And then like obviously there's like tiers. Like these are like Amazon shorts and they feel like Gymshark shorts,
Yeah,
So
I
like,
mean, these are Fabletics, and like I get them. I only get my clothes from Fabletics when there's a sale, or I don't know if you're familiar with it, but they have like credits. Like you sign up for the membership, it's like $50 a month.
Oh, okay.
Then you get a credit, and the credit is good for they call it can't remember what they say, but you get a t-shirt and a shorts that's like if they go together, they'll combo
like
together,
like a
and then
set,
they get an outfit. You get an outfit for free. You pay the taxes on it, which is still $50 is still cheaper than what it actually be. And then you'll have like, oh, since you're a VIP member, you get 2 shorts for $19 or whatever the case is.
Gotcha.
So only buy them like when they're on sale. But I mean, yeah, to go what he was saying, it's the logo is everything.
Yeah.
I mean, Nike, like you see it, I'll pay, let's say $150 for a Nike jacket just because it has a Nike logo on it, and it could be the same exact jacket next to it and have nothing on it, but I won't buy it because it doesn't have Nike.
Yeah.
it's all about that standing out,
Yeah.
Kind of, I guess, talking about that a little bit, like what have been some of the things to like you've done to market your brand and kind of get it more in front of people that aren't used to that type of product?
Yeah, I mean, I've tried. I guess I've been doing. I guess what everyone, the traditional ones of Instagram and a few paid ads and things like that. That was a really big one for me. I mean, the most successful things that I do are the in-person events.
Okay, yeah, I've seen that. You did have that one at Yeti.
I did that one at Yeti, and that was those type of events are just amazing because people can actually come in and feel the product.
That's what I want to do.
Yeah, they can feel it, and I can talk to them. They get the story, and compared to online, my shirt could look exactly the same as another shirt, but you can't really experience the benefits of wool from just online looking at it on a picture, right? So those in-person marketing events, and the reason I wanted to do it in America is because obviously the market is so huge here. And just the opportunity is amazing. That's also the challenge because you have to pretty much educate every single person on merino wool and what it is. Whereas, you go somewhere like Europe, they're a lot more familiar with wool. It's a cool climate. They've been wearing wool for many, many, many years over there, centuries. So they're a bit more familiar with it. So probably a bit more of an easy sell. But America, people come up and they'll walk past the shirt and it'll catch their eye, and then they'll come and feel it and they'll go, oh my God, like what is this? And then you get to tell them, which is a really cool thing to be able to do.
Yeah. It's fun and exciting when you get to talk about your product.
Yeah. And then you get some people come up like, oh, merino wool. I wear nothing but merino wool since I discovered it, 10 years ago. And you're just like, see, that's the people that's the experience you kind of want to give to people.
Do you ship nationally?
Yep.
Yeah. That's cool.
I do internationally too. Shipping's pretty tough, but I go ship all over the US.
I guess it might be a ways away, but like, have you thought about like trying to get your stuff into like department stores and, maybe like higher end, like a Neiman Markets or, Nordstrom, like something like that? Cause I feel like, I don't even know how that works, but I feel like that is the type of demographic, unless you like open up your own store, that would really thrive in. Yeah.
I think that's the next steps for me is trying to get into some wholesaling in the right areas.
Yeah.
The challenge you run into there is kind of like volumes and SKUs, and it's kind of like a chicken or the egg thing because often retailers will want to see different SKUs. So they'll want the polo shirt in 5 colors, the short in 5 colors, the button down in 5 colors, the tee as well. But in order to get those, that's a lot of upfront cash that you've got to put up yourself. Yep. So it's kind of like, well, who bites first? Do you go and put that big expense out and buy all that product in the hope that you'll be able to move it, or you got to wait until maybe shore up some orders and then you can put it in your manufacturer. But I definitely want to. That's on the radar and that's the plan, because as I said, the more people that I can have actually just feeling the product, it goes such a long way.
Yeah.
Do you think it makes more sense to do that or like have your own storefront?
I mean, if I could do my own storefront, that'd be amazing. I think that would sell. I mean, if you can do that, obviously your margins are going to be better because you're not selling at wholesale. You can sell at retail, but you do have those overheads of rent and things like that. And I think my ultimate goal is to have my own store and just make it a complete experience, so someone can walk in knowing nothing about merino wool, walk around one wall, get history, lesson on the science, and then feel the products and have all the products there. So that basically everyone can just have this conversation, what we just are having, about learning about wool, where it comes from, the origins, the history, why it's different, and then kind of feel these amazing products that they've never felt before.
That's dope. Yeah. How'd you come up with the name Sir W? Like, where did that come from?
So my great grandfather, his name was Walter, and he became a Sir. He got knighted by the Queen of England for his contribution to the Australian wool industry, and so he became Sir Walter. So I just shortened it to Sir W.
Sir W.
That's super
nice.
cool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Paying homage. I like it.
So yeah, I mean, it was coming up with a name was pretty tough at first, and then I don't know, it just happened, and then you're like, oh, why didn't I think of this at the very beginning?
Yeah, and if it's like kind of like what the brand is, like
it's the reason it started.
Like I like that.
That's
a nice name.
The Sir part adds a lot to it.
Yeah, it does.
So, but yeah, just to kind of
it make because Sir is like rich, so like seems rich and fitting.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there was any money attached to it when he got knighted, but
no, like just having the name Sir. It's like a not you're rich, but like the name is just
and
powerful.
A more
rich.
higher class esteem.
Yes.
So it kind of all just fitted quite well.
Yeah, I like it. It looks good too.
Yeah, it looks really good.
Yeah.
How is having like a product like this in Austin? Like what would have been some of the benefits you've seen?
Yeah, I think probably what you guys might have felt as well, just like the I guess the passion for creating new things and startups here in Austin. Everyone's very supportive. There's a lot of cool stuff going on. So, even just be able to go to do that Yeti pop-up. Did another one on the east side with a company called American Field. Things are just things happen.
Yeah.
And it's an exciting place to be in that regard for Austin, because you meet so many different people who are starting their own thing, and there's so many lessons you can learn from each other, and meeting those kind of people. And it's just kind of super refreshing when you meet someone who's passionate about something and they have their thing that they want to go in their direction, and it kind of gives you a bit of a kick up the ass as well of like, okay, you can,
especially like when you meet somebody and they're at like a certain level and you're like striving to get there. Like, we've had guests on where they're like at this level, but still having that humility and that humbleness to have the conversation with us and kind of break bread and talk about like what we're both doing in different areas and how we can help each other too. Like, I think that's like one of the big things in Austin is this been so prevalent with like, changing a lot, but I think with that change brought a lot of that stuff, because I don't think that was like really a thing prior,
Yeah. As not that it's a country town, but with a lot of country towns, the stat just keep things status quo.
Yeah.
And it's a big thing in Australia. Really, is we kind of have like, it's called the tall poppy syndrome a little bit, where if someone gets ahead of themselves, everyone will cut them down pretty quick. So a lot of people don't put themselves out there too much.
Yeah.
But in a place like Austin, everything's just so supportive. Like, it's cool to be in that and see people who started something 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And now it's paying off for them, and that's just. I mean, just think about how many brands kind of really started in Austin, like Tecovas and stuff like that.
Yeah. That's crazy. Tecovas.
Yeti.
Yeah. And it's just like, wow, that's pretty cool. I mean, it just kind of shows you, well, people can do it.
Yeah.
And it gives you a bit of self-belief that someone's got to do it. Why can't it be us, you know?
Yeah. Sure.
One last thing, well, one of the last things for me is so like my luxury, I guess it's luxury, but like my luxury shirts that I'll go buy here and there is All Saints. And when I was talking to the guy, he said the reason their material, like they're nice silky, I guess, kind of shirts, not silky, I think they're still cotton, but it's the way they brush them is like why they're like that. Is it the same for wool? Like when y'all like make it and whatnot, do y'all brush it a certain way, or is it just already like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's different ways you can treat the wool and finish the product. And that just comes down to your manufacturer. So, you know, they might, you know, iron everything and then give it a nice brush. And most fabrics are kind of covered in like a really fine silicone in the last minute to give them that really softness for when they open up the packet. But yeah, you can just there's different ways to treat the product at the end to get it to look or feel a certain way. And depending on the product. Right? So for like a thicker sweater or something like that, you're probably not going to do that. But for something really fine and nice.
Yeah, because going off of what he's been saying, like there's a couple of brands that I like this brand called Sunday, made by he's the guy who used to make Full Sins clothing, but he started his own brand, MTV Jesse, called Sunday, and like a lot of his like shirts and I just got one of his hoodies recently. It's like really, really like heavy material, but it's like super comfortable once you put it on. Like you don't want to take it off. So it's like just kind of like once you kind of get in that demographic of stuff, because most people are like, oh, why are you spending, you know, $120 on a hoodie or, you know, $80 or $9 on a shirt? But it's like once you get one of those shirts, and you're able to like, you know, wear that and afford it, you're like, dang, like, and then you go wear like a $20 shirt or $40 hoodie, you notice the difference for sure.
For sure. I mean, there's you know, that very end of the high end of the spectrum. There's a reason those Loro Piana Xenia shirts are that much money, because they are better than other stuff. You know, and I think the quality matters. It doesn't matter to everyone, but if you find your target market and your demographic, like it should matter to them. Yeah. Right.
See, I'm a comfort guy, so like I like to just feel comfortable, no matter where I'm at home or wherever it's at. I just like to be comfortable. So like I need to start looking in the wool section.
Get in the wool section. Find something that you like, and you can just wear that stuff for days, right? It's pretty amazing.
Do you have
I was gonna just ask, like, what are some of your goals for the remainder of the year with your brand, and what kind of some things you have in the works?
Good question. So working on a few new products at the moment. You know, as we just kind of mentioned, working out that wholesale retail aspect and adding a few more SKUs and colorways. But then for winter, we'll have a winter range this year on offer. So some cool hoodies and maybe sweatpants as well.
Awesome.
Which will be all 100% merino and made in the US, which will be cool. But yeah, it'll definitely be a winter range, which I've got the samples now and whatnot. And they've been awesome. So I've been testing them, and then we are aiming and should be have a few women's items as well.
Okay.
Leading into winter as well. A few like lounge sets and things like that, which will, as we know, women buy way more stuff than men. So
yeah, that's also true.
I'm excited to get into that.
One last thing, would you ever make something for like kids or toddlers or something like that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, baby wear is huge in merino. Baby blankets, things like that. That's definitely down the line for sure. If I can get into that part of it, which I think ladies and women's wear will be a good into that. If I can, if they like it, then they'll want to buy it for their kids.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much it for me. Do you have any questions, Bert?
No. You got one. He's got one, ladies and gentlemen.
Here we go.
Let's see what you got.
I know you had talked about like merino wool originating from Spain and then thriving more in Australia. Would it thrive just as well or pretty close in Texas than it would in Australia, or does it make sense to just keep everything in Australia?
No, it's a good question. So, Texas and America used to grow a lot of wool, like a lot. San Angelo
Yeah, that's why they're the Rams.
That's why they're
okay.
used
Wow.
to be wool capital of America.
Wow. Did not know that.
Yeah, so I mean, some of my very good friends, they're wool buyers. They live out there, and they're wool buyers, so they buy up a lot of the U.S. wool, which goes a lot into the American, like the military uniforms. So all the the number one uniforms at your military, that's all made from American wool, so grown here. It's just competition for land, particularly in Texas, just became like you can't compete growing wool and make as much money as you can on the hunting lease side or oil money or so that even the Carolinas, that used to be huge for textiles, all up and down that coast. Now there's only one scouring plant, which is scouring is the first stage processing for wool, which is like the cleaning of it. You get all the grease and the dirt off it. So there's only one left in the US there, and it's in just outside Charleston. But yeah, America has fantastic, environment and climate to grow wool. It's just hard to make it economic sense. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of grown in California, center of the nation, Montana, Wyoming, South Dakota. So tough for them to, I don't know if they bring it back to compete with the scale of Australia. I mean, there's a few things they probably need to do, genetics-wise even, just to get that quality of wool so you get more money for your wool, and then you'd be more likely to want to breed more sheep and things like that. But yeah, to your point, yeah, absolutely. Texas, great environment for wool.
Cool.
Yeah, good. I mean, that's good for me. I like he said. Thank you taking time with your day. I mean, we learned a lot. Like we're talking off camera I thought wool was just old, and I just like picture it with it being like medieval times, like just times like that, and it's just old and like itchy, and it's like. Yeah. But now we're sitting here and learning this as some of the softest material you can get.
Definitely got to cop some. Get ready for the golf course.
Man, absolutely. It's I mean, for me, I'm just trying to change that perception of and educate people on what this product is and that it's not just wool, right? Yeah. So, but thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you, man.
Of course. It won't be the first, won't be the last.
Won't be the last.
And I hope there's some way that we can also just help you out and fulfill your dream that you're chasing as well.
Yeah, awesome. Love it. Yeah. It's so good.
Yeah, cool. Well, that'll do it for another episode of Opinionated Off-Topic. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, wherever you get your podcast at, and we'll see you guys for the next one.